Hey, this is SportsSlaw with Lomas Brown, the pro.
And Deb Schneider, I'm the prof. And together, we're the pro and the prof. Welcome to SportsSlaw Year in Review, 2020 in Review. And Lomas, I don't even know where to begin.
Goodness. If we would have known back in March that 2020 was going to end up this way, Deb. I mean, let me ask you a question. What would you have done different if you'd have known that this was going to happen back in March? What would have been the one thing you think you would have done differently?
From a sports perspective, a podcast perspective?
Let's say from a life perspective.
From a life perspective.
Because that will incorporate everything, sports, everything. What do you think might have been the one thing you would have did differently?
I think I would have tried to basically, I mean, if I knew, I would have been more prepared. I think that's really the big thing. And I think in a lot of ways, we as a society have really moved forward in a lot of ways. I mean, we pivoted so quickly. Mm-hmm. We really did. And from the businesses, the small businesses, all of that, I'd like to say I would support small business more.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Absolutely support small business more. We try to do the best we can. I think that's really the one area that we could do more, because most people work in small business.
Mm-hmm. No, so, you're right.
You're right. Shout out to all of our workers, our frontline workers.
Yes.
And I include everybody in the hospital, in the medical profession. I include the teachers in that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think for me, Deb, I probably would have been communicating with me. That would have been my biggest thing, and what I mean by that is, the outreach of, say, people I hadn't talked to in a long time, people that I haven't met or been hesitant about meeting or communicating with. I just think it would have took on a bigger role for me because of what has happened. Because like you saying, us getting isolated, us being
Absolutely.
Shut down, and not being able to communicate the way that human beings are supposed to communicate. Because yes, we communicate through speech and through talk, but also it's through our emotions too. Mm-hmm. We communicate. And I just think being, like I say, shut in and not being able to get around people, not being able to gather, I think that probably would have been the one thing for me that I would have looked at a lot harder before this pandemic started.
Would have realized how lucky we actually were, huh?
Absolutely. Exactly. How valuable and how needed it is to be around people and to have those communication skills and just the feel being around each other. Deb, it's hard
right.
when you're doing it virtually or you're doing it through the way we're doing it now. As you recall, me and you started off doing this show being around each other, being face to face, sitting in the same room, being able to share ideas.
We were feeding off of each other.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to ask you this. Let me ask you this. What is the one thing that you think has been really good about this year?
I hate to say this, but for me, it's kind of been the isolation, and this because now it makes me appreciate when we get out of this, Deb, believe me, I'm going to appreciate social gatherings. I'm going to appreciate being around family. It's different things like that I will appreciate more than I think I did before all this happened. You take a lot of things for granted, and I think I took a lot of things for granted, not calling people back on a timely manner,
Mhm.
You know, like I say, staying out of contact with loved ones for months, you know, like that. I don't think that's going to happen again, because now you see how precious it is. And for some of those loved ones, they need it. Especially, I talked to my
Yes.
96-year-old auntie, 96,
96.
and I
Mhm.
talked to her. She's down in Tallahassee, Florida. And she was just telling me, when this is over with, and she's telling me this at 96, you got to bring the kids down, because some of my kids had never met her.
Oh.
Or she doesn't know a lot of my kids. She know my older kids, but she don't even know my younger kids. So, you know, things like that, being able to
Mhm.
gather, I think that's something that I'm gonna really, really appreciate once we're able to do it safely again.
So it's appreciated. I think one of the things that's been, despite the COVID, and it really does go to the isolation though, but a good thing from all of this has been the number of guests and the contacts and the communication we've had. When I look at this, when we started in March, we were saying, oh, how do we get so and so to come to a studio? Where are we going to do this? Where are we going to do this? And I'm going down our list of guests, and I'm going to turn this. I'm going to say we never would have gotten Rob Parker, who's
Hmm.
in Los Angeles. We never would have gotten some of these people, because it's become easier in a lot of
Yes.
ways.
Yes.
So while we're in a split screen and we're doing this, but I look at this, Doc R, Rodney Rhodes,
Yes. Hmm.
he's in Texas.
That's right.
I and how lucky we've been to be able to have Doc R as, as our resident physician. Dr.
Mhm.
Durbin, she's
Mhm.
out of Johns Hopkins. Joe Franco, we got a number of your former teammates together.
Yes.
I mean, I'm just going down this list, and you and I were talking
Yeah.
about that before. I want to
Mhm.
name everybody: Matt Friedman, Matt Cook. We started with the Matts,
Yes.
Terry Calna. I, you know, just just a phenomenal group of guests that we've had in 6-7 months.
Yeah, no, you're right. Now, I hate to say this part too, but I guess COVID gave us a lot to talk about too, Deb. If you think about it, it was like
Yes.
something almost every day that changed or that was affected by COVID. And, you know, it gave us a lot to talk with. We could go to any industry. It affected any industry, the sports industry, construction, just any, how you teach now, just
Yes.
all, it just affected every industry. And it was something that constantly, that we had to constantly talk politics, everything. It just kind of rolled, COVID just kind of rolled everything into one big talking subject for us, for going on, man, it's been 8 months, 9 months now,
Right.
almost. Wow. Yeah.
And we're still talking about COVID.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
think we're going to be talking about COVID.
Mhm.
I mean,
Yes.
let's look at this a little bit. When we've had some sports that have somewhat successfully had seasons.
Mhm.
From a pro level, we've had the NFL has somewhat successfully had a season. NBA did a great job with their bubble.
Yes.
NHL, baseball, they, definitely a shortened season. We go down to
Mhm.
the NCAA and college level, and it's a mess. It's a
Oh.
mess. So, one of the things that we've learned is the difference between pro and amateur sports.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, what do you think? Do you think we had a real season? Did we have
I
real
mean,
seasons?
well, me and you both said early on that we knew, because of the dollars of revenue, that the colleges would get affected or be affected more than the pros, just simply because of revenue. The NFL and all the pro sports getting more of their revenue from TV than college, which,
Right.
depended a lot upon fans being in the stands. So we knew that it could affect the testing, because of, again, the money. The NFL
Mhm.
has the money to do the rapid testing. as Doc R was saying, there's all these different type of tests where you can get a test that'll let you know in 15 minutes, and just a different type of test that they were able to get. And I don't know if that translated down to the collegiate level, because you had outbreaks, you had teams. Right now, Deb, we're in the bowl season, and you having teams right now still canceling going to bowl games because they're having outbreaks on their team. So we kind of knew it would get affected by the revenue. The almighty dollar would play a big, big role in how some of these teams or some of these organizations were going to be able to continue throughout the year. So it has played its role, and I think it's going to continue to play a role, because now with the vaccine being out and who's going to be in line to get the vaccine, it's just different things that you kind of keep hearing coming out each and every day from both leagues, collegiate and from the pro leagues.
Well, I think one of the other things COVID has really exposed is the inequities and social justice issues. And I when I say social justice issues, from Black Lives Matter to other social justice, to the inequities, the rich, poor, sports versus non-sports. Should the NFL player, or should someone playing on a professional sports team, get the vaccine before my daughter, the teacher?
You're right. Well, at least the NBA with their commissioner, Adam Silver. Yes, he was very strong about the NBA not jumping ahead. He said that we would not, as a league, jump ahead and try to get vaccines for our people. To me, that's very responsible. And really, to be honest with you, he's the only one that I heard come out strongly about that. I didn't hear Beckman. I didn't hear Roger Goodell. I can't think of the hockey guy, but
Manfred.
Manfred, that's right. You're exactly right. So it's unbelievable, how strong. But I guess it's directly correlated to the success that they had in the bubble, which I don't know if the NFL is finding the same success there, because again, if you take the Detroit Lions, first team pretty much wiped out by COVID contact. Not to say, and from what I heard, it was one of the coaches that without a mask, doing things that he shouldn't have did, and he put the other coaches in a situation where it was a COVID contact. Not to say that they had it, but they were in close contact with somebody that had it. So, again, where does that start at there? Where does the line get drawn? I mean, because again, you have a social responsibility or a moral responsibility as a person, right? If you've had it, you've been in contact with somebody, that you have to let people know. But then again, you got some of these coaches that aren't following protocol.
Well, you said it yourself when we were talking earlier. Self-inflicted wounds from the players, the coaches. Everybody's invincible. We're not going to get it. We're all being safe.
Yes.
Or we think we're all being safe. And then you hear the horror stories.
Yes.
18-year-old kids dying, Benny Napoleon. Oh my gosh.
Oh, damn. That was so sad. Just so sad. Such a prominent figure in our community for years and years. Such an important person to leave us at 65. That was really sad. It really was.
Yep. We've had hurricane. I mean, it's just been it's unbelievable to me how COVID has completely changed the world.
Yes.
Getting back to the commissioners, I think one of the things that we've seen is the fact that how a commissioner and how the top down really affects the outcome. I have to give so many kudos to Adam Silver. I mean, what a phenomenal job. He was the first one out. He created a bubble when we didn't have a vaccine. He created a way for the NBA to play, and he was very, very strict with that.
He
And
really was. You're right. And
it
with
worked.
social justice too. I
Yes.
think they, out of all the leagues, I think the NBA did the best job of promoting social justice, letting
Mhm.
their individual guys be their voices. And I just thought while they were in that bubble, I thought they did a phenomenal job. And you could see it carrying on. You could just see those guys. They carried on from the bubble, them getting a champion. And now into this new season, you still